Hey there, friends. Gathering up some last minute stuff here. I know a lot of you guys are going to roll into the room. I've been seeing you guys piling into the chat room for a minute there. And I will go ahead and get rid of my lovely elevator music there that I know so many of you enjoy. Folks, welcome to a Sunday afternoon edition of what we're going to be doing here. And I'm going to try to do this regularly if I can. There's a lot of news that I will overlook throughout the week. And my goal is that, or I say overlook, I prioritize my videos. And sometimes it's based on my level of knowledge on a particular topic. If I feel like I can't deliver something accurately, properly, or do it any justice, I'll usually prioritize that a little bit lower. So what I plan to do is use my Sundays or Saturdays, but it's probably going to be Sunday afternoons just like this, to go ahead and have a get together with you guys and talk about some of the things that maybe I didn't focus on. And it might even be videos that I plan on working on in the coming week. So I've got a list of things today that I do want to go over. Instead of going over the list, let's get right into it. I want to bring up, let's see here. Here we go. Okay. If you guys have not seen, heard, or whichever of, let me see if I can't get this right here. I want to put it to where you guys can see the stuff at the bottom. Okay. If you haven't heard some of the stuff that the Biden administration is doing, one of the things that outrages me, and this was going to be a standalone video that I was going to put out, but I felt like instead of waiting till tomorrow or Tuesday for this, I felt like I needed to put this out today in this live stream. The Biden administration is using their little Keep America Safer, whatever their gun control bill was last year that Cornyn and Tillis, the Republicans, helped push through. They're using this now, and by God, politicians like Cornyn ought to know better than this, but they're taking what's called a safer schools that doesn't do anything to improve safety at any of these schools, but they're taking it because the title says safer schools. They're stripping federal funding and grant type programs that were outlined for gun safety classes and archery classes. Yes, I'm just as surprised as you that there were still gun safety classes that were allowed anywhere in this country. That's baffling to me. I know can't be anywhere near where I'm at, but nevertheless, apparently there are still programs like that. The Biden administration is trying to strip any funding for that. And I want to go into this video. Let me grab my headphones real quick so I can watch this with you all and check this video out. This is from Fox News. I typically don't pull any of my research and any of my data from Fox News or any or not as many of the conservative sites, even though Fox is leaning way far away from conservatism these days. But I usually try to grab my data from the anti-gun, far-left wacko sites because I feel like I'm not speaking the same language sometimes. Sometimes I want to grab that opposing view and pick it apart in things like this. But nevertheless, Fox is the only ones covering this right now. So this is the only outlet that I can use. So let me grab the video and let's watch this together. Well, I'm sure we're going to have a commercial or two. We're going to, of course.
Donate a life-saving gift to UNICEF.
I'll kill the audio while we watch their mandated video commercial. All right, here we go.
Well, President Biden's war on hunting is facing serious blowback. That's because the U.S. Fish and Wild Service is expected to publish draft hunting guidelines that could limit the equipment that hunters use on federal refuge properties. Hunting groups argue it makes hunting more expensive and less accessible. Same with fishing, because cost-effective lead ammunition would be banned, and it could impact recreational shooting on about 95,000 acres of federal land. So you can see some of the details on the big screen. Now, joining us live from D.C. is Ben Cassidy, the Executive Vice President of International Government and Public Affairs at Safari Club International, a group I think sounds really cool. What do you do at Safari Club?
Well, I have the great pleasure, Steve, of working with hunters across the world, regardless of what you hunt, where you hunt, how you hunt. Safari Club is the group for you. But it also means a lot of work all the time as we constantly see battles, regardless of location. And one of them that we're fighting right now and have been fighting throughout this administration is access.
Right.
You know, and I speak about access because it's multifaceted. There's physical access. Can I go there to actually hunt? It's also economic access. Can I afford to hunt here? So since day one of this administration, we've asked all of the politicals in the administration for a commitment to no net loss. You know, under the last administration, we saw huge gains in access. Under this one, we've unfortunately seen steps in the wrong direction.
Right.
And it's been no surprise that we've had no commitments from any of the officials over there to commit to no net loss of access.
Well, and in the introduction, Ben, I mentioned you can't use lead ammo, lead bullets on federal property. What kind of bullets? What's the backup bullet made out of?
Sure. I mean, there's no good, cost-efficient substitute for lead. I'm not even trying to be funny on this, but the best alternative to lead, based on its, on its metal properties, would be gold. And I think that there's a lot of better ways to use gold than shooting it. Right?
Yeah.
So,
No kidding. Just shoot it out there. So, what is your membership? Are they worried about this, or are you kind of the bird, essentially the canary in the coal mine, saying this could happen very soon?
No, our members are well alerted to it and very concerned about it. You know, in fact, we have a petition on our website that has signatures from all 50 states, from our members and from just advocates that are standing up for this no net loss policy and asking for it to be recognized. And I'll tell you something, hunting closures, they're a lot more complicated, I would say, than, just shutting down a street. They have direct impacts on conservation. And I think looking forward into 2024, you're going to see in the fall a lot of elected officials dressing up in camo, but they're not going to be out there hunting for game. They're going to be hunting for votes. And the truth is, at SCI, we're watching elected officials, not just on the campaign trail, but when most folks aren't actually watching them.
Right.
And I'll tell you what, we fast forward, and hunters that are in Michigan, that are in Pennsylvania, that are in Georgia, that are in Florida, in Ohio, in Nevada, and Arizona, they're going to decide who sits in the White House after 2024. So we're going to be there to make sure that they see it, and our members are already seeing it.
Excellent point. Maybe the federal government should require, if they don't want people to hunt, maybe they should require bullets be made out of gold, because then the bullets would be so expensive nobody would do it. And that's just the way
don't give
government
any
works.
good ideas. Don't give any bad ideas out there. Okay?
Yeah, that's stupid.
All right. Ben Cassidy from Safari Club International. Sir, thank you very much for joining us live.
All right, guys, let me get back to my normal screen here. And I'll pull up some of the, let me grab the headline here, and I'm going to go over some of the details of this particular thing that they have going on here. So, in a nutshell, the Biden administration is, and let me throw me back in there for a second. The Biden administration is blocking key federal funding earmarked under the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965 for schools with hunting and archery programs. That is a thing that is already in place. And let's see, according to federal guidance circulated among hunting education groups and shared with Fox News, the Department of Education determined that under last year's, remember, this was last year in June that this bill was signed into law with, quote, bipartisan support from a bunch of idiots on the Republican side. Let's see. Under the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, school hunting and archery classes are precluded from receiving federal funds. This was via the Department of Education. This is a whole different topic, the Department of Education being an unconstitutional organization because it says nothing about education in the Constitution. So it is, it's not a valid organization. But here we go again with bureaucracies like the ATF making rules that affect everybody else, and Congress sidesteps any responsibility of their own. Congress is the one who earmarks this money for these schools, and the Department of Education is the one withholding that funding from these schools. You see what I mean? You have a bureaucracy right now that is overriding the wishes of Congress. here we go again with the bureaucracies controlling everything and Congress being a bunch of cowards and not wanting to handle anything regarding their own business. Now, Tommy Floyd, the president of the National Archery in the Schools program, told Fox that in many communities, it's a shooting sport, and the skills from shooting sports that help young people grow to be responsible adults. They also benefit from relationships with role models. I can't help but at this point acknowledge the fact that the federal government, and it's not just Democrats, it's mostly Democrats because they like having their group of slaves that are dependent on them. But Republicans are just as guilty of this too, just not as openly guilty of it. Whenever they talk about removing these archery programs and these shooting programs from schools, this gentleman right here talks about how they also, meaning the children, they also benefit from relationships with role models. Let's not forget how many single parent homes we have in this country right now. Now, those single parent homes are good, especially for Democrats, but the government in general, because the government needs the people dependent on them, because if they are independent, they don't need the government. So they're not as reliant on the government. And especially if they're not getting all the free cheese from the government, well, guess what? They can operate independently from the government. And what does that mean? It means they won't support as many of the free stuff programs that the government is dishing out on a regular basis. So the government is always and has been in favor of single parent homes for a very long time. They don't want mentorship. If you mentor a young person and get them to develop and advance and mature sooner and make intelligent decisions, not join a gang, not steal things, learn a trade, learn a skill. This all comes from mentorship. I don't mean mentoring on the street from a gangbanger or somebody slinging dope. I'm talking about somebody who has quality values that can teach these people good values at a young age. Obviously, the people putting on these archery courses and these gun safety classes in schools are quality people. The government doesn't want those people talking to our young people because, again, they'll bridge that gap to maturity, and the government doesn't want that. So this sickens me right here. Now, this is not the only reason why the federal government is against this program. Make no mistake about it. They simply don't want, especially on the gun side of it. Now, the archery side, the reason why they're against that, most people who would embrace archery would also embrace the hunting culture, which would eventually, in some cases, in most cases, evolve into the gun culture. So they would become Second Amendment advocates. Now, I'm careful how I word that because clearly not every hunter is a Second Amendment advocate. We see politicians all the time say, oh, I've been hunting since I was a kid. And then they vote on something that's anti-gun. So make no mistake, I'm not drawing that comparison to say in any kind of way that a hunter is a Second Amendment advocate. But if you want to look at it this way, call it a gateway thing, right? We talk about gateway drugs all the time. Archery being a gateway sport, a gateway activity. So if you get somebody involved in archery, they're likely to get into guns and possibly get into Second Amendment advocacy and gun rights advocacy. They don't want that. So it's a win-win for them to get this out of there. Not only are they keeping the mystique and the negative, supposition of guns, keeping that in the forefront of these kids' minds, thinking that, oh, all guns are bad and gun can just kill you. The fact that there's a gun there, somebody might want to kill somebody, not wanting to communicate realistically and logically to these children that, hey, a person decides to kill. So they're winning there by keeping that person as a slave, because by making them a mindful slave of the federal government, well, guess what? They can teach them all the anti-gun, gun control gibberish that they want to. But again, they also win on the side of helping this person, this young man, because it is mostly guys. There are girls in these courses, of course, I will acknowledge that, but it's predominantly the enrollment is boys. But it's to make sure that we don't have more men growing up in this world. I have some of the finest women that are in this group right here. Minnie is definitely one of them, one of our moderators on here. So you guys know me well enough to know that I am not an anti-female person, but I can't say this without also saying that I'm sick of the narrative that our federal government and the media are trying to drive, that women can do everything better than any man can. If you are a white Christian male right now, you are considered the enemy of pretty much everybody. So women are trying to be pushed as being just as good, but definitely better. And they clearly aren't. I mean, you see them lower the standards in the Army whenever they're having to drag one of their comrades or something like that. I hate to say comrade because that's so communist sounding. Whenever they drag one of their fellow soldiers, Marines, or whichever, they don't make the women do it the same way. The physical challenges in the military are not the same. They lower the bar for women. That's not right. I want the best of the best. My point in all of this is that they are wanting to feminize this country, starting with our military, but everywhere else in this school system. And that's what better way to feminize people than to not have them doing any outdoor activities? What better way to feminize a bunch of kids who might have evolved into strong Second Amendment advocates if you had them in archery or, guns, but instead deter them from that and now tell them, hey, let's go to home ec. Let's show you how to bake a cake or something like that. Soften them up. The federal government wants these guys as soft as they can. Remember, the federal government can't control strong people. The federal government can easily control mindless slaves and soft people. So that's their goal. Don't think anything less than that. The federal government knows what they're doing. Let's see. I had some other points that I want. Oh, yeah, this was kind of surprising to me. According to these guys that run these organizations, 1.3 million students from nearly 9,000 schools across 49 states are enrolled in archery classes. Now, that doesn't even include the gun safety classes, which I have to say that I'm sure there's way less gun safety classes out there. I'm sure the Department of Education has done everything they can to make sure that guns, even speaking about guns, is not allowed in schools. But nevertheless, that 1.3 million students from 9,000 schools does not include those gun safety classes. That's just archery. 1.3 million kids that they're wanting to defund this type of education from them. I mean, guys, it's no different than a home ec class, a Frisbee class or a tennis class or something like that. It's an I can't seem to talk today. It's an extracurricular activity that a student can choose if they want to. Nobody's forced to go through this. These 1.3 million students, they chose to be in this archery class. And now the Department of Education is wanting to strip that from them and not allow them to do that. Let's see. Oh, here we go. That bipartisan, I love the way they call it, Bipartisan Safer Communities Act or whatever they call it. The legislation included an amendment to subsection listing prohibited uses for federal school funding. That amendment prohibits these funds from helping provide any person with a dangerous weapon or to provide training in the use of a dangerous weapon. This was an amendment that was slid into this bill at the 11th hour. This is something that none of us got to see. We saw all this bill being wired up and getting ready to go back when it was going on. You'll remember to look back some of my old videos. Myself, Jared with Guns and Gadgets. I mean, a lot of the folks out there were really picking this bill apart and telling you all the negative things about it. This was an amendment that was snuck in there. This was somebody who knew what they were doing. This was a person who wanted to take archery classes and gun safety classes out of the school system. And they were successful in doing that by putting that wording in this bill via an amendment. Let's see. In a letter to Education Secretary Miguel Cardona earlier this month, Senator John Cornyn, he's trying to save face here. John Cornyn is a piece of crap Republican senator from Texas. He helped push this anti-gun bill through, and hopefully his political career is dead. He expressed, now he wants to talk about this. After the bill is already in place, he expressed concern that the agency is misinterpreting the provision, which they said was included in this bill. You know what? Maybe instead of following Nancy Pelosi's advice and passing a bill, then reading about it to find out what's in it, maybe you could read the damn bill in the first place and figure out what's in it before you actually agree to it. You agreed to this. Now, he's using the wording that the agency misinterpreted the wording. No, wait a minute. We have all the high-priced, high-paid lawyers in the entire country that help write these silly little bills. And you can't tell me that nobody picked up on the fact that this wording could have been misinterpreted. You probably knew what it was going to do because you clearly are not an advocate for the Second Amendment or any of the shooting sports or outdoor activities. So I think John Cornyn knew exactly what was going to happen with this. He's just now trying to play the good cop on this. And that pisses me off when these guys do that. knowing full well that these schools could have that funding taken from them, and this man does something like that. Let's see. To follow up on what Cornyn was saying, we were alarmed to learn recently that the Department of Education has misinterpreted the BCSA to require the funding of certain longstanding educational and environmental programs, specifically archery and hunter education classes, for thousands of children who rely on these programs to develop life skills, learn firearm safety, and build self-esteem. That is absolutely right. But you're about a year late, John Cornyn. You could have talked about all this while you guys were pinning this bill last year. Of course, I know he was getting hit from all different sides because this guy is such a clown. He was absolutely getting hammered last year. I want to go on to say that Ben Cassidy, who's the executive vice president for international government and public affairs at Safari Club International, said it's ironic that the U.S. Department of Education is actively denying young adults the chance to educate themselves on basic firearm hunting and safety so that they can go afield knowing how to keep themselves, their friends, and their families safe. Let's see. At best, the department's policy appears to be singularly geared to ensure hunters are less safe when handling firearms or bows. Now, that's probably the biggest thing that hit me. It's not just that the federal government wants this. They want the feminization of all these young men. And let's face it, they don't want tough women either. Whether or not there's a campaign, pro-woman campaign, anti-man campaign, they still don't want strong women either. A strong woman is just as hard to corral as a strong man. I'm talking about mentally. So they don't want any independent women out there taking part in these classes either. They're glad that nobody is going to be able to take them because they're stripping this funding. But the fact that we are now going to remove programs from young people who probably don't have a good role model at home, it's very possible. I know that there's a lot of the dads out there that are going to tell their kids, yeah, man, sign up for this. But there's some of these young men out there that sign up for these programs because they don't have a dad. They don't have a dad to take them hunting. They don't have a dad to take them shooting a bow and arrow. So this is their chance to actually do something other than going to a Barbie movie or something like that with their mom and their sisters. We're taking that now from these young men. What else is that doing? Anyone who hasn't grown up in a household like myself, and most of you guys out there have grown up in households that have strong father figures. You went hunting, you shot guns, you went to the range, you did all that cool stuff like I did. A lot of these kids out there don't have that option. They don't have that benefit. So if you remove the education part, and I'm speaking very specifically about the gun safety, the education, the 4 rules of gun safety. I'm talking about exactly what you do. We saw the picture of the ATF guy aiming an open bolt gun at his privates the other day, loading it with ammo. That's the kind of stuff that you encourage when you take this safety aspect, the learning aspect out of it. I would be willing to bet that well over half of the gun education process in these programs is safety. So you're removing all potential safety. So now these kids who don't grow up in a house around guns now have no contact with anyone who knows anything about guns. So what's their first contact? Their first contact is down there at the river or something like that when some kid takes his dad's gun from under his bed or something like that and sneaks out the house with it. Now they're all got 5 or 6 kids running around giddy because it's a mystique. It's a mysterious thing that they've created, this aura around a gun, because none of them have had any gun safety education. So now they all get to finally hold a gun. One of these kids shoots himself. It's because not one of those kids would have had any kind of gun safety education because the federal government is removing that from them. Now, let's remember, your tax dollars are paying for that. So the federal government is now taking your tax dollars away, stripping them, and not allowing them to educate our children to become stewards of the gun industry. And that's where it starts. I mean, these kids learn at a young age the respect. They mature quicker because I know whenever when I got my first shotgun, I felt like I took 2 years of maturity because I knew what that gun could do. I had already been educated by my parents, my brother. Plenty of people had already led me down this path to know what a gun could do. It wasn't mystique to me. I knew what was coming out of that barrel, and I knew what it could do. And when I got my first 12-gauge shotgun, I think I was 14, either 13 or 14. I went from 13 or 14. I thought I was 21. Now, I wasn't cocky about it, but it did. I felt like it was a big step for me, a big jump for me. You know, this helps these children. And now what we're doing is we're going to promote less safe kids out there. Now these kids that are not around guns like we are, our parents helping us, aren't going to have that exposure. So again, they're less safe. So the federal government is going to be responsible for less safe people out there. If you want to sit here and act like these kids will never be around guns, you can sit there and piss in the wind all you want. Some of these kids that would have taken these courses would have learned something, and some of these kids are going to be hurt later on in life because they don't know at least the 4 rules of gun safety, at least those, not to mention going more in depth for each one of them. So that really bothers me. I also have to wonder, think about this. If we had a gun safety course for Joe Biden, right? When Joe Biden was growing up, clearly he took no gun safety courses because Joe Biden would not have ever made the ridiculous, stupid, ignorant, idiotic suggestion that shooting a shotgun through a door if somebody comes to your house, a burglar or something like that, was a good idea. Joe Biden would have never made that suggestion had he been educated properly on firearms, because that is one of the stupidest things you could do. You know what else he would not have suggested? Shooting a shotgun up in the air if somebody's burglarizing your house to scare them away. That is a big no-no. That violates rules of the 4 rules of gun safety. So clearly the guy has never taken a gun safety class. I have to wonder if maybe Joe Biden had taken a class, maybe he wouldn't be so stupid and make such ignorant comments and suggestions out there that are flat out dangerous. I also have to wonder if Hunter Biden had taken a gun safety class in any kind of way, would he have been so stupid? Would he have allowed his gun to be thrown into a dumpster? Would he have lied on his 4473? Maybe he didn't understand what the 4473, how big of a deal it was, because he never had any gun safety classes. Maybe if we were to educate some of these far left-leaning wackos, just maybe 1 or 2 of them would get a lick of sense about firearms and not be so stupid and ignorant when it comes to firearms. And that goes for the Republicans too. John Cornyn, I would love for these people in Congress to have to take a test, not just on the Second Amendment, but we're talking about guns here. I would love to see them take a test on the Second Amendment and have to pass it before they can get set on a committee to vote on these types of things. Because most of these guys, Democrat and Republican, would fail miserably on every single one of them. All right, guys, I do want to move on. This is a similar topic tied to the same thing. But I want to go on to a little bit more of what they were discussing there in that video that we just looked at. So let me grab this screen and pull it off of here. And I'll grab this other one and we will talk a little bit about this one. All right. So you heard them talking about the lead stuff. And let me give you a full screen of that. Okay. We talk about the ATF all the time. The ATF, and by the way, guys, this is MeatEater.com is the website I pulled this from. It's a pretty decent article here from their website. First time I've ever visited it, so maybe go check it out if you get a chance. We talk about the ATF always infringing upon our rights. And we just talked about the Department of Education also infringing upon rights. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is no different. Speaking on that lead thing, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service issued a proposed rule this week. This was a couple of weeks ago, to phase out lead ammunition and fishing tackle on 8 national wildlife refuges by September 2026. If accepted, it would impact Blackwater, and then it goes on to talk about all these refuges and reserves that it would impact. In the rule, they note that the best available science analyzed as part of this proposed rulemaking indicates that lead ammunition and tackle have negative impacts on both wildlife and human health. Actually, that's not true. They have actually proven just the opposite of that. And that's easy to find too, by the way. I'll try to find some links on that. Many sportsmen advocacy groups, however, question the application of the science. Here we go with the science again. The government is in charge of science now, not scientists. Alluded to in the rule and have expressed concerns that it would open the door to more sweeping lead ammo bans. Serious concerns remain that wildlife services are moving forward with a lead ban without fully considering the consequences to the hunting and fishing community. Of course they're not. Let's see if there's anything else on here that I wanted to share with you guys. In terms of the effectiveness of lead versus copper ammo, Meat Eater, that's this website, has broken it down multiple times, and they have some good articles on that I read, and conclusions are all the same. Both kill animals. While copper bullets might not induce as much hydrostatic shock as lead with a well-placed shot, they are equally as lethal, and copper doesn't break apart in the animal. As a downside, copper ammo is significantly more expensive than lead, which could be a prohibitive setback for hunters. Perhaps the most convincing argument for copper, though, comes at a personal level. A Montana hunter in an interview with editor of Montana Magazine said of his family, "We eat venison because we want healthy organic meat. Why would we want to, why we want to knowingly add lead to that?" Well, I don't agree with that because we eat venison too. And we eat a lot of other stuff, including, of course, ducks. We're going to have steel shot in those. But we also eat a lot of wild game, and lead has never been an issue. No one in my family has ever died of lead poisoning, and lead poisoning is not an issue in the state of Louisiana where I reside at. So I have to disagree on that. I do not think that is a valid point, but nevertheless, that's what they're wanting to talk about. Now, the reason why I bring this part of it up, this was a part of the story that seems like it gets glossed over pretty fast. My concern with this, and hear me out on this, you're going to love this. The federal government, boy, have they ever tried to restrict our Second Amendment rights, right? And they're getting loss after loss after loss. The court system is absolutely destroying the anti-gun movement right now. I know it's death by 1,000 cuts, but nevertheless, it's happening. Pinprick, pinprick, pinprick. You can only eat an elephant one spoonful at a time. So they're doing this, and they're failing miserably. The ATF, the DOJ, the anti-gun groups out there, they're all failing absolutely miserably right now. What better way to make it harder for people to target practice, arm themselves, or anything like that than to make ammo either not available or hard to get or super extremely expensive? You wouldn't have to technically go through Congress. And I say technically because if you pass any kind of a lead ban, that should be a law, and Congress should handle that. This should not be Congress punting their responsibilities to the Department of Wildlife and Game, or whatever they call themselves. So we have another bureaucracy that I feel like under the Biden administration now is going to be pushed to ban lead. A lead ban is not just going to happen for hunting, guys. If they're saying that lead is bad for the animals, well, what they're going to say is if you're target practicing and you're shooting lead, what if the animals go eat some of that grass or something in the area where you have some of that, pigeons, doves, and all that. And I'm sure other birds too. I know for sure pigeons, because we used to raise pigeons. They eat a lot of gravel because it goes in their gizzard and does the thing that it does and all that good stuff. I don't know the science behind it. I was a child whenever we did that, but I know it's a thing. So they're going to try to say that these birds will go do that and they will get poisoned as well. Not only that, they're going to say at some point, because to me, the environmentalists are all about the environment. They're going to say that the lead is poisoning the environment in general. They're going to say that the lead is poisoning drinking water. They're going to say that the lead is poisoning animals drinking water in streams and fields and brooks and all that kind of stuff. So this is not going to just be a hunting thing. If you think it's just going to stop at hunting, you are dead wrong. This will eventually evolve into a full-blown lead ban. That's why if you're not a hunter, you can't sit back and not do anything about this one. You have to talk to people about it, because this is just like the bump stock or the stabilizing brace and all that. Just because you don't like it doesn't mean that it can't come around and affect you at some point. So don't think that because you go, I don't hunt deer, I don't care if they outlaw lead. Well, the next step will be your range ammunition. Now, I get that there's going to be people that are going to post, well, I got 10,000 rounds of every single round in my garage. I'll never need to buy ammo again. That's cool and that's cute. But I like to think about other people sometimes and not just me. I worry about these new shooters out there. We have record numbers of new shooters. Are we back? Looks like it dropped out for just a minute. My apologies for that. My point is that I'm more concerned with the new shooters having access to cheaper ammunition so that they can get that proper training in. We do not want, the left wants this, but we do not want uneducated and untrained new shooters out there, because the left, as I always say, is licking their chops for that next accidental shooting. And what better place to have it than somebody who has not had the chance to get behind that trigger and get some trigger time in to educate themselves and develop those skills, that muscle memory, and that memory of what you're doing, how to do it, and that those things that come as second nature to those of us that practice on a regular basis. That worries me. So the ammo deal could potentially be a bigger deal. Again, I see this as a slow trickle right now. You're going to have a lot of people who just simply don't have the money or the time to hunt that might sleep on this one. And that's a bad thing. I hope they don't sleep on this. I hope they looked at this ammo thing, this potential lead ban by a bureaucracy. Again, it's not by a Congress. It's the Department of Fish and Wild Services, Wildlife, or whatever they call themselves. That's who's banning this. This is not Congress. This is not a lawmaking organization who's putting a law in place. It's another rule that they're trying to pass off as a law. So hope people will make some noise about this, because one day it'll affect you. If a lead ban goes into place, you will feel it at some point, no matter what your level of expertise is in practice and use in the gun industry of firearms is. It'll affect you at some point. Let's see. What is my next topic over here? This is a good one here. Let me pull this up. All right. Let me go over here and kill that screen and grab my next screen. Man, I hate this White House. I hate our White House. Jeez. White House meets with police chiefs on how to expand, quote, assault weapons ban. I'm not going to say the word, quote, on every single time I say assault weapons in here, because that's what they call it. That's not what I call it. But if I say it every single time I read this, it's going to get a little monotonous. So bear with me if I use their language and not just parrot what they're saying. So let me get in here. The Biden administration quietly met with several big city police chiefs on ways that law enforcement can help better massage a gun control message to the public. In a readout published by White House on Tuesday, the unnamed, quote, senior White House officials met with more than 20 law enforcement leaders, and they use that word leaders. I don't like the way they use that, because these people aren't leaders, from across the country to discuss how to build additional law enforcement support for an assault weapons ban, assault weapons and high capacity magazine ban, and other common sense legislation to reduce gun violence. That sentence is worded wrong, because that is not common sense, and those are made up words, but nevertheless, I will move on. Going further, the release said that the unnamed officials discussed with the assembled chiefs the importance of mobilizing additional law enforcement voices, both leadership and rank and file officers, to make clear to members of Congress that supporting our police and improving the safety of American communities means banning assault weapons and taking other practical steps to reduce gun violence and save lives. Let me just use the word poppycock, because I don't want to use the word that I want to use and that most of you want to use. Let me deconstruct that sentence a little bit for you guys. First of all, did you notice that in this group of leaders, that it's police chiefs? Did you happen to notice that? Who are the strongest, most powerful law enforcement officers in every single state? It ain't the police chiefs. They might be the most popular because you hear about them and they get a lot more face time in places like Detroit, Baltimore, Los Angeles, New York, because they're always on TV, because their people are shooting people up in the inner city all the time. So you might know who they are, but they don't have any power. They don't have much power, I should say. They are appointed by mayors. They are not elected. They are pretty much slaves of the administration. The people did not pick them. Yes, the people may have picked the mayor, but they did not pick the police chief. So a mayor can hire and pick the most radical anti-gun person he wants to, and it really doesn't affect him, because he can put that off on the police chief and say, oh, well, that's his doing, not mine. I just hired him, and I mean, he did that on his own. Notice they didn't include sheriffs in this. I'm not implying that every single sheriff is a good guy. Certainly not implying that, but most sheriffs are pretty darn good. Most sheriffs, at least in the South, are doing the bidding at a certain level of the people, because they fear getting voted out. You can say what you want about elections. their elections have consequences. And at the smaller levels, like at the sheriff level, there have been sheriffs who've been booted out because they made the wrong decision at local levels regarding firearms and other things. Sometimes you'll see a spike in crime in certain areas, and that community will have a sheriff that they absolutely adored at some point, and they will vote him out because they're sick of it. You can change a sheriff pretty easily. It's a little bit harder to change politicians at the national level because they've got all that name recognition. A lot of people are stupid and they vote for the person that they recognize the name of. At the sheriff level, it's a little bit different. Yes, there's a certain level of political recognition that you recognize the name and you vote for them. But for the most part, you either know those people or you know people who know them, and you can either vote them out or you vote for them. So they purposely did not include sheriffs in this because they would have met opposition. The fact that they have at least 20, and look, they named them down here. You've got the quote leaders were California Highway Patrol Commissioner Sean Durye, Los Angeles Police Department Deputy Chief, Nashville Police Department, where's that manifesto? San Francisco Police Department, Baltimore Police Department, San Diego. Yeah. So Washington, D.C. So they cherry pick the losers from all of these failed communities where none of them have a handle on crime. And this is an easy way for those police chiefs to say, hey, man, crime wouldn't be so bad if y'all would let me ban firearms, ban, quote, assault weapons. So this is their way to have an out. When you suck at your job, you blame something. This is the way for them to go. See how important this issue was? It was so important to ban assault weapons that the Biden administration invited me to the White House for us to talk about it. So it's not my fault that Baltimore or Los Angeles is out of control. It's because you guys won't get behind me and support an assault weapons ban and a high capacity magazine ban. That's what they're saying here by these guys meeting. So it really bothers me that these guys are out there doing that. And why does this matter? Let me tell you one reason it matters. And I don't know if my friend Josh Barnhill from Gun Owners of America is on here. Josh and myself, we work at the state level with Gun Owners of America here in the state of Louisiana. We both have testified at committee hearings in Baton Rouge, our state capital. One of the last ones I went to, I had to sit through the Baton Rouge police chief and the chief or captain or something like that of the Louisiana State Police sit in the chair and talk about why we, as highly trained citizens of Louisiana, should not be able to conceal carry a firearm without a permit. I sat there and listened to these guys who probably have never concealed carry on their own outside of carrying a firearm on their person for business. In fact, at the level that they are, I doubt they even carry firearms anymore. I listen to these people who have less training than me. Yes, I said it. They have less training than me. I know they do. There's no way that these police chiefs and these captains have the level of training that I have with firearms. Now, maybe people who administered some of their training have nice shiny certificates on their wall saying how super special they are. They may have prettier paperwork acknowledging the quote training that they've gotten, but there's no question they've received less training than me. And I have to sit there and listen to them preach to me like they're the experts. And I know damn well that I know way more about firearms and firearm safety than any of those guys. And then listen to them say how it's unsafe for me to not have a permit. I'd also like to point out that looking at all these people that you see right here, California Highway Patrol, Los Angeles Police Department, Nashville, where's that manifesto? San Francisco, San Diego, Washington, D.C. This is something I would be willing to place a bet on. These are people sitting in a room, and I would be willing to bet that not only, well, there's no question the people at the White House, but all of these police chiefs, I bet they haven't shot over 500 rounds through an AR-15, the very thing that they are trying to outlaw and ban. I'll bet most of them have never shot an AR-15, and the ones that haven't put 500 rounds. And you guys know 500 rounds is not a lot. So these guys are trying to, and they admit it in this whole article right here, that it's the top down. They want leadership and rank and file officers to carry this message. You know what that means? That's a very pretty way of saying we need you guys to help us brainwash the rest of your law enforcement guys so that they can brainwash everybody else. So that now, whenever Joe, law enforcement officer, says nobody needs an assault weapon, everybody goes, oh, look, law enforcement said we don't need assault weapons. He's the gun expert. He has an AR-15, so he must be an expert. Meanwhile, I'm looking at you guys in the comment section over here, guessing that most every single one of you in there has probably put 500% more rounds than any of those guys, saying that you don't need an AR-15. And I also find it equally funny that these guys park a marked unit in front of their houses to deter criminals from attacking them or their families. We don't have marked units in front of our houses. So we need those things more than those law enforcement guys do. I don't see a whole lot of them running to big, massive gunfights. They stand off at a distance. Most of us are not going to have the luxury of having law enforcement with a vehicle sitting out front or 2 seconds away. We are our first responders. So I find it ironic, odd, and a little bit disgusting when law enforcement like this is trying to push brainwashing down from the top down to the frontline level of every single officer that they have. To me, that's just utterly disgusting. And the Biden administration pushing that is obvious what that is. I can tell you one thing that they're doing. There was no minutes to this meeting that were released. Nothing other than what you see right here. They did not list an agenda. They didn't list minutes or anything. You know what they were probably telling these people? And I would put money on this. They were explaining to these organizations how to apply for grant money to institute a red flag gun law in your area. I know that's what they were doing. They're saying we earmarked all this money through our unconstitutional bill last year that we passed, and we have all this money out there, millions and millions of dollars. And hey, guys, you qualify for it. All you need to do is learn how to fill out this paperwork, and you're going to get hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of dollars in your area to educate people on the usefulness of a red flag gun law. So they're using your taxpayer dollars to bring all these people to Washington, D.C., to encourage them to brainwash everybody they know that assault weapons are bad and high capacity magazines are bad. This also tells me that there's going to be a new push for that, because why would they do this? They need support at that ground level. You know what I mean? They can't just scream from a mountaintop in Washington, D.C. If you notice, they covered the entire country from the West Coast to the East Coast, up north, down south. They're trying to cover as many people as they can to try to get people speaking out against AR-15s and 30-round magazines, standard capacity, as they want this as fast as they can, because this tells me they are mounting some kind of new charge against that. Now, I'm going to put my tinfoil hat on right here. Anytime the federal government is preparing to mount some kind of a battle against AR-15s or anything in general, but against AR-15s and 30-round magazines, you know what that tells me also? We're about to have another mass shooting. It's exactly what it tells me. Because anytime they start thinking about it, anytime they start talking about it, anytime there's a little bit of a murmur or a rumble about something, guess what happens? Within a week or two, possibly a month, boom, we've got another one of our mass shootings out there with the very thing that they were sitting there talking about. So you heard it here first. I would be willing to bet the month of August, going into school, because remember, we got school coming up, watch for something to come out. Now, I'm not saying that I know anything. I don't know anything. For all the Fed boys who are watching, I don't have plans. I don't know anybody. I don't have a faction of people out there who listen to me that carry out my orders. I'm telling you, the federal government is the one you guys need to be looking at, because they're the ones that miraculously seem to always have the timing just right. Whenever they have legislation pinned and ready to go, boom, something happens out there. So that's why we need to watch out. I say watch your backs. I say we're at the tail end of summer. Everybody needs to be very, very careful. A lot of people, not me, a lot of people are out there traveling. I don't like going around. I'm not a big crowd person anymore, guys. I avoid big. I got a function to go to is it next weekend? The weekend after next. And it's local, but it's a large function. I'm not happy about that. I just don't go around big crowds much anymore. But summertime, you typically do. You know, you're at amusement parks, you're at parades, functions, and things like that. Football season's about to get kicked off. What's that mean? It means stadiums full of 60 to 80,000 people, right? 100,000 people. So there's about to be some really big gatherings. So I really worry that the fact that they're giving a precursor that something is about to happen with, quote, assault weapons and high capacity magazines, that they're going to somehow or another stoke those flames by something coincidentally happening out there. And look, we just happen to have this bill written. Let's ram it through, just like they did last summer. So let's see if I have anything else over here. Oh, real quick, like I want to push this to you guys, and let's look at it real quick, because I did not put a video out on this, and I felt like this was certainly worth sharing. Here we go. Okay, again, I know most of you guys have probably seen this, but I can't go without talking about it. Supreme Court temporarily blocks ghost gun ruling by federal judge. Let's go through here and read through some of this. I know a lot of you have seen this on other YouTubers' channels, and it didn't make it into my rotation this week, so I'm going to cover this real quickly. Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito on Friday temporarily blocked a lower court's decision to strike down a regulation aimed at reining in privately made firearms known as ghost guns. And I'm not going to read that last statement. They say that are difficult for law enforcement to trace. That's just a stupid thing. That doesn't prevent crime. The action by Alito, who handles emergency matters arising from a group of states, including Texas, effectively freezes the litigation as the court weighs a request on Thursday from President Joe Biden's administration to reinstate the rule pending an appeal. Alito put the case on hold for 1 week until August 4th. That's this coming week, and gave the rules challengers until August 2nd to respond to the administration's request. The administration asked the justices to halt a Texas-based federal judge's nationwide ruling that invalidated a Justice Department restriction on the sale of ghost gun kits while it appeals to the New Orleans-based 5th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals. The administration warned that allowing the judge's ruling to stand would enable an irreversible flow of large numbers of untraceable ghost guns into our communities. Let's see. I don't know if I need to read any more of that. The reason why this is important is because, first of all, I want to point out that tracing guns does nothing about crime. I've had guns stolen from me and never returned to me, and none of this deters crime. It doesn't change crime. If you have a criminal, let's take criminal. Let's hang on. All right, I'm a criminal. Let's say that I want to commit a crime. Let's say that I want to go rob a liquor store. Let's say that ghost guns, as they call them, are legal. I have the opportunity to either make a ghost gun, or use my stolen firearm that has a serial number on it. If I'm concerned with anybody tracing it back to me, that's not even a possibility, because other than DNA and fingerprints, which would be on a quote ghost gun anyway, you can't trace a gun back to me that I stole unless you know that I stole it. And if you know I stole it, why am I sitting here talking to you and not in jail, right? So nothing about that makes it any different. So if I am a criminal and I have a choice and I want to go rob that liquor store, am I going to take the time to first order the ghost gun kit? Second, put it together. I'm an uneducated idiot. And now you're expecting me to know how to mill a frame and put together a gun, right? I guess I'm going to have to watch a YouTube video for that. So do I take the time to do all of that, or do I just use the gun that I have? Or if I haven't stolen a gun yet or bought a stolen gun yet, I'm going to go down the road to old Gary down there and ask Gary for a gun. I might borrow his. I might steal Gary's stolen gun from him. But either way, a law is not a concern of mine. I'm not the least bit worried about the fact that you have a ghost gun law or don't have a ghost gun law. So let's say now you have a ghost gun law in effect. What does that mean? Oh, not as many ghost guns out there? There's no fewer guns out there. It just means there's more of those types of guns out there. There's still a massive amount of guns. In other words, it's not like there were 300 million guns out there and all of a sudden ghost guns added 100 million more guns. They're just proliferating into that number. It's like pink guns. What if all of a sudden we decided we were going to make more pink guns? Well, you would find more pink guns used in crimes just because of the simple fact that those numbers were increasing, and eventually pink guns will get stolen, and eventually criminals will use those pink guns in crimes. If we started painting every single Glock out there pink, you would start seeing pink Glocks show up at crime scenes. So don't tell me that we have a problem with ghost guns because you're starting to see some show up at crime scenes. It's because there's more of them out there. It's freaking math. Maybe you guys never took a statistics class in school or something like that. Maybe you should, because this is very simple logic to me. But that criminal, if he's worried about somehow or another somebody tracing a stolen gun back to him, if he wants to get rid of the serial number, what do? You grind it off of there. Now, I get that there's technology that can go in there and read the technology. Read the thing in there, the serial number in the metal and all that kind of stuff. I get all that. Criminals don't know that. Come on, man. Criminals just simply don't know that. They will grind that serial number off and be done with it. Simple as that. A criminal is by definition a person, excuse my French, who gives two shits about whatever the law is that you're trying to push onto them. So passing a new ghost gun ban does nothing. And the FBI and the DOJ and the ATF like to brag about this beautiful tracing program they have. You know why they talk about it all the time? Because it's going to get defunded at some point, or it should get defunded. But a program that is useless, like the ATF, but a program like tracing guns that is useless and doesn't stop crime, it gives you knowledge. Oh, that's where that gun is now? Oh, cool. It got stolen. So now look, I'm not a criminal anymore. I'm talking like a non-criminal now. So now we're going to sit here and have some kind of technology out there that tells us ghost guns are illegal or legal. Your person is not the least bit concerned, as a criminal goes. Your person is not the least bit concerned with what the consequences are. These guys are not tallying up what their crime is going to result in as far as a sentence. They don't sit in there and go, well, look, I'm robbing a liquor store. That's going to be 20 years. I've got a gun. That's an additional 25 years. Oh, shit. Ghost gun, too. God dang it. That's okay, that's going to be another 5 years. They don't do that. They don't sit there. They don't. And at the end of that, they don't do the math on that and go, oh, wait a minute. Let's see here. Oh, shoot. That's 55 years. I'm not doing that crime. I'll wait for the next one. No, they're not. They don't do that. They don't rationalize like that. That's not how it works, man. So these people think that ghost guns are a problem. They're not a problem. Again, let's start painting all the guns pink and see when legislation goes into place to ban pink guns, because suddenly they're starting to pop up in crimes. It's a correlation causation thing out there. The fact that there are ghost guns does not mean people are choosing them for crimes. They're simply not. Now, some may, because they're stupid enough to think that tracing a gun actually matters. Any criminal that thinks that having a ghost gun is more beneficial than having another gun with a serial number because it's stolen is stupid. If you drop either of those guns at a crime scene, either one of them, whether it's got a serial number or a, quote, ghost gun, if you drop either one of them, neither one of them can be traced back to that criminal again, unless, of course, DNA or fingerprints. That's it. Nothing in the ATF's database will lead back to that criminal because the freaking gun was stolen. How stupid are you? It's going to come back to Timothy over in freaking Nebraska somewhere. Hey, Timothy, did you own this Smith & Wesson handgun? Yeah, I sure did. It got stolen about 6 years ago. Okay, thanks. The ATF sits back and goes, we traced another one. Timothy in Nebraska owned that gun before Gary over there used it in a crime. Yes. Who did that make safer? What did you accomplish by doing that? So you got a little bit of knowledge to know that this gun went from Nebraska to the Bronx, and that's a victory of some sort? It changes nothing. All it does is it muddies the waters and gives you more data for you to look at and crap to read through. It doesn't change anything as far as criminals go. It doesn't deter any future crimes, and it doesn't minimize crimes in any kind of way. How stupid are these people? Guys, that's pretty much it for my rants today. I've held your hopefully I've held your attention for an hour now. I'm hoping to do these things about every Sunday. Oh, let me say this real quick, and I think this is kind of cool. I want a couple things that I want to point out to you guys real quick, like before we get out of here. Wait. That's not what I wanted to do. Share my screen, and where is that one at? Here it is. Okay, guys, check this out. I want you guys to see this. This is kind of cool. Before anybody cries, Yes, CMMG is a partner of my program. CMMG does a lot to help me out, and I feel like I owe it to them to help them out, not monetarily. They support my program, not just monetarily. They support my program, and it's a big deal to me. They have something really cool. If you haven't seen it, over my shoulder over here, I have what they are calling a mystery box. Mystery box is pretty darn cool. In fact, I'm going to show you some of the stuff that I have in mind real quick. Let me talk about this first. If you come down here and go to their website, I'll post a link after this video is done processing, this live feed. I'll post a link to the mystery boxes down below. Okay, you can go down here and there's 3 different levels of mystery boxes. There's a $75 value that you pay $49 for. What that means is you're going to spend roughly $50 on this entry level mystery box, but it's got $75 worth of stuff in there. And it actually does. If you take the retail value of that, you're going to get $75 worth of stuff. The $150 value box costs you $100. So you're getting $50 of free value out of that. And of course you have your higher end one where you're going to pay roughly $200 and get $300 worth of value. I want to show you real quick. Gosh, do I have everything in here? I know I already stole the hat. Okay, this is what, it's called mystery box also, guys, because you are not going to know what you're getting in the box. You can pick, if you notice, shirt size right there. You can pick your shirt size, of course. So this was my shirt that I got. Let me see, make sure you guys can see what I'm showing you right here. Let me get up here. Okay, this was my shirt. I got the shirt. I got a cap that's about this color also. And this is the cool stuff. This was the mid-level one also, by the way, guys. That's why I kept it highlighted there. Comes in this box. And I'm going to do a video on this so you can see in a lot better detail what I'm looking at here. Of course, they've got some magazines, 2 different kinds of calibers of magazines that I've got in here. I thought this was kind of cool. With hurricane season coming up over here in Louisiana, I got an MRE. But the neat stuff, you have some, okay, this is a AR-15 enhanced field repair kit. It's a parts kit for your AR-15 trigger assembly. I have a polymer trigger guard assembly for an AR-15 as well. I also have, here's the good stuff, an AR-15 handguard from CMMG. See if you can see that. Oh, let me get that thing out of the way. Sorry about that. That's a sweet little CMMG handguard right there. That came, again, in the, I think that's the $100 package. And this was equally impressive. Boom. So like I told CMMG, I said, now you guys are forcing me to build another AR-15. Oh, and a beer koozie. CMMG beer koozie. So that's all the stuff you got. So let's see. Let me get the, I have the upper receiver assembly. I have the handguard, the MREs, the magazine, parts kits, the shirt, and a baseball cap from CMMG. I think that's pretty cool. For $100, you get all that stuff. Now, again, you don't get to choose what you want. It's just got some neat stuff in there that you can go out there and get. I would definitely go check it out if you want to. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to order some of these kits and we'll do some periodic drawings. What I'm thinking of doing is maybe every 2 weeks, maybe we do them here. Maybe we do drawings here on the live stream on Sundays when we do a recap. Maybe at the end of the show, everybody that's on here will do a drawing for a mystery box. And what we can probably do is we'll figure out a way that I can pay for it and get it shipped directly to your house. That way it's not coming to me. Because if you send it to me, I'm going to steal all the good stuff out of there and send you what's left over. I'm just joking. I wouldn't do that, but I don't want anybody to think that. So yeah, we may start doing that because I do want to do something with CMMG on this project because it's really cool. I like this kind of stuff. Knowing what their products are, I know that it's all going to be top-notch stuff. And the fact that they send you parts, look, that's what CMMG is known for. They're known for their parts kits. I mean, I don't know how many. If you don't know about their parts kits, for years now, CMMG, this is how I knew who they were early on. they would color code their parts kits. Like the different packages would have different colorings of the packaging. So you knew what those parts kits belonged to. You knew what they were for. And they were color code that so that when you went through the assembly process, it made it so much easier to look at all that. Now I'm talking about the guys who can't put an AR-15 together in their sleep. Most of you guys probably can do that. But it's the average or below AR-15 owner that just doesn't have that kind of, wherewithal to them. And I found that super helpful early on in my access to AR-15s. I thought that was super cool. They still do all that. They're just known for making really good internal parts. And I've replaced a lot of trigger assemblies and things like that with the parts from CMMG. So really cool. And their 22 conversion kits, by the way, I'll have a video out probably next weekend on a 22 conversion kit. We'll be doing a giveaway on that too. I'm going to give away one 22 CMMG conversion kit. But for now, guys, go to their website. If you use my discount code, it's FTATF. You have to figure out what that means. I think most of you know, but my discount code is FTATF. And real quick, if you guys have not seen the latest version or the latest edition, excuse me, of my comedy YouTube show, you really ought to go check it out. We just started the second season of HOA PD. That's the letter H, the letter O, the letter A, space, and then the letter PD. HOA stands for Homeowners Association Police Department. It is a comedy. I have to say this. It is a comedy channel. I have people go on there and say, you ought to be arrested for impersonating a police officer. Well, I guess everybody on CSI New Orleans ought to be arrested for impersonating police officers too. It's a freaking fictional show. I actually have people comment on my channel saying that you guys are impersonating police officers. I don't know if they think that HOAPD is a freaking documentary, but it's all made up. It's all fake. It's a freaking comedy show, for God's sake. But if you don't if you haven't checked it out, you need to go check it out. It's a lot of fun. It gives me a little bit of a break from all the, let's face it, guys, in this industry, there's a lot of crap to deal with, a lot of doom and gloom, because we're getting hammered on all sides by the anti-gunners on a regular basis. So the HOAPD, it gives me an opportunity to have a release, a little bit of an outlet. I have a very dark sense of humor, so it gives me a way to release that sarcasm and that dark sense of humor that I have. I have a very positive outlook on life, but at the same time, I have a very what's a good word for it? I want to be polite the way I say this. I don't expect much out of people. Let me just put it that way. And I'm able to convey that through. I have a very low opinion of a whole lot of people out there, and I'm respectful about it. And this gives me a way to kind of release and say some of the stuff that I want to say. Myself and Kendall, we have a lot of fun filming it, editing it, and all that. And we're trying to put 2 out a month right now. It's a little bit tough, as hot as it is, to gear up and to do all the recording and all that kind of stuff. Just makes it a little bit difficult. But the last one was pretty funny. We're working on the next one. Hey, if you ever have any ideas or you ever have run-ins with HOAs, shoot me some ideas. I'm open to listening to that and including some of that stuff into the newer episodes of HOAPD. But guys, as always, all of you guys out there who are not just the members of Legally Armed America, but all of you guys also who are on here, who are my moderators. I've got friends on here that are members and moderators. Many, of course, is always on here. Mike Yu, I see Lloyd Thurber is in there. Let's see. I want to give you guys some shout outs because you guys really do a lot to help me out. And I really appreciate that. And I hope you all know that. I know, gosh, I know I saw some more in here earlier. Where are they? Oh gosh. Now that I want to call some people out, I'm not going to be able to find them in here. And the rest of you guys that are in here also, look, that's another thing. I never asked for people to be members. Those of you that are members, I appreciate that. But I think I even put in there that I discourage people from being members because I don't feel like I'm any more special than anybody else. But those who are members, I absolutely appreciate that. It is an honor to me that you guys would be a member of my channel, but I'm not trying to get people to join my membership. The fact that you guys are here and you're taking part in my live stream and you watch my videos, you share my videos, you like my videos, you comment on those videos, that's enough for me, quite frankly. I'm not feeding my family based on what I make from YouTube. This is just what I use to buy ammunition, guns, and to upgrade my equipment and stuff like that. So luckily, I do reinvest all of my money, by the way. Everybody, every video you guys watch, every time somebody does a, what do they call them? where the donation during the, a couple of you guys did that in today's thing. I forget what they call them, but where they donate during the thing. All of that money goes into one bank account. And I take all of that money and it's dedicated to everything that you see and everything that I shoot, which I have some new videos. I'm committing to doing 2 gear reviews a month right now. As you guys can imagine, those take a little bit longer, so they're not as easy to put out. And if you're not putting a video out a day on YouTube, you're going to get lost in the shuffle. So you have that personal commitment that you have to constantly put that content out. So we're going to be about a month away from cooler temperatures. You guys are going to see a lot more gun related videos from me from the range at that point. Look, guys, this week, let me show you why I'm not going to be out and about this week down here in South Louisiana. This is brutal. This is probably the latest that we've had this kind of weather down here. It's super dry. All my grass is brown and yellow in my yard, but I want you guys to see this. Oh God, it's depressed. Oh no, they improved it. Yeah, I think they've improved the, we did have, oh no, never mind. It's still just as dreary. Look at our highs. Look at the center column right there. That's our highs for this week. 107 today, 110 tomorrow, 110. Those are some of the most dreary looking temperatures for highs that I've seen in a long time. We typically don't have that warm a temperature for the first week of August. Usually that's the middle of July when we have those, and then we kind of top out and then start coming down slightly, a couple degrees at a time. We don't have 110 degree temperatures down here in South Louisiana in August. It's just not that often. And if we do, it's a quick spike and then it goes away. We're talking about 7 days in a row of 105 plus temperatures, 103 plus temperatures, whatever they said. I'm not going out to the range in that. I mean, I'm almost sweating inside air conditioning because we have such high humidity down here. Last thing I wanted to go do is sit out at a range and drink Gatorade most of the day and try to stay out of the sun. I want to go have a little bit of fun. So you will be seeing more of the gun related videos from me as these temperatures start to get a little bit better down here. But again, guys, the fact that you watch the videos, share them, like them, and comment on them, that's enough for me. And I do appreciate that. And I just want you guys to know every penny I make, I reinvest that. Yeah, I don't buy fancy stuff with it. I have a job. My job pays for my family, my food, my utilities, my car note, my gas, and all that. I use everything that I generate through these videos, either in this room or something related to these videos, whether it be camera equipment, you know, new gear or something like that. I got a new camera. Well, I say new camera. It's relatively new camera right here. Things like that. That's what I do. I reinvest it into stuff. And I don't have other projects like other than HOAPD. I'm not like a photographer or anything like that. So if I buy a camera, it's for here. So again, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me on a Sunday afternoon. I hope to do this more often. Please share this video. I think we put out a lot of pretty good and interesting information today. These are on topics that I just didn't either get to last week or they came up at the end of the week and I didn't have time to put anything out. I may still go a little bit more in depth this week. You may see a little bit of a repeat on a couple of things, especially the Biden administration pulling that funding. I'm going to dig a little bit deeper on the Biden administration pulling that funding from these archery and gun safety classes in the school system. I want to get a little bit more data on that. I'm curious. I want to know how many gun safety classes we actually still have out there. If you guys know of any, let me know, because I sure as heck don't know of any. I know down here in South Louisiana, we don't have any. Even being in the South, our education system is so scared of even the mention of guns that they won't even pretend to have a gun safety class. So I'm curious if you guys have that in any of your areas. Let me know if you do. My email is paul@LegallyArmedAmerica. Again, paul@LegallyArmedAmerica. So guys, I always appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Thank you so much for doing that. And, you know, you guys hung out here the whole time and it means a lot to me. I know you got better things to do on a Sunday afternoon. You know, spending it with me means a lot to me, guys. So thank you again, folks. Thanks to the moderators, and we will see you guys later. I'm going to go grill some steaks and drink a couple of beers and play with my son for a little while. We'll see you guys later.